Hey everyone! How are you all doing? How are you all doing? How did you like that podcast episode with Taya? Isn't she amazing? Um, for those of you who are just jumping on this and you missed the podcast, definitely go check it out. I've left the link in the description below the video. Because this video is a piggyback onto what I just finished talking about on the podcast where we ended off. So I hope you're all doing good. It's good to see so many of you in the live chat from the podcast here with me today. Hi, Alexia, up 3. Good to see you. Sooterbug doing double duty tonight. Oh my goodness. Okay. So as I mentioned to all of you in my Telegram chat last night, like in the evening, I was getting like super big pushes to do this video like right away. And I wanted to so much because my energy was in such a good place. But I didn't want to override the message that was coming through the podcast. And I wanted to be able to set that tone so that I could deliver a further unraveling, I guess, or explanation, a deepening of what's kind of happening. So, as I mentioned in my Telegram chat, the hint was it's kind of like Christmas, has something to do with it on multiple levels. And I was instantly, what I'm going to explain to you was my guides brought me back to reminding me about the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, which happened on the 21st, on the 12/21 portal last year, of 2020, where Saturn and Jupiter became the brightest star in the sky since the birth of Christ. And as you know, I had Elizabeth April on my show, and we talked about that portal. And right before that portal, I also had galactic activations on, and we did a light language transmission plus other stuff of messages that were coming through. And I'm now starting to understand it at a deeper level. I'm now understanding what that portal was all about. It's so hard to see the bigger picture when you're immersed in the fear of the chaos. It is so difficult to see that. But after understanding what I'm being shown now, where my attention is being guided to, I am now starting to see the bigger picture of what Taya calls the great experiment, which I agree with her. There is a huge experiment happening right now on the planet with humanity of seeing how far can we push the boundaries? How far can we push them until they actually say no? And this was something that came up in the podcast where so many of us in our lives, aside from what's happening right now, so many times we have compromised our own selves, our own values, our own needs, and not said no when we should have, and allowed relationships to continue, jobs to continue, situations to continue that we knew were no longer right for us, that we're not feeling good anymore, and we still allowed it to happen anyway. This is a huge experiment for humanity that looks like it's being orchestrated by, let's just call it, darker agendas. But in true essence, we know that you can't have the dark without the light. And I feel like there is a divine orchestration around this dark agenda to wake many of us up to understand where we're actually being guided to right now. Where are we actually being guided? And in many ways, we're being shoved. Let's call a spade a spade. A lot of us are being shoved right now, okay? And some of us are kicking and screaming and saying, no, I don't want this. I don't want this. Okay, so for those of you wondering why I have a Grinch on my thumbnail, I originally was going to call this video The Grinch Will Never Steal Christmas versus The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. The Grinch will never steal Christmas, because you're going to understand where a lot of my guidance was bringing me through, because they brought my attention to this movie in particular, The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. But through further evaluation, I realized that the more important message is that we are transcending the matrix supply and demanding 5D. That is literally the crux of this entire experiment, which is a divine orchestration for all of us, part of the great plan, the great experiment to help push, shove, guide some of us into this new earth 5D living frequency that many of us are being told is where we're going, right? We just don't know how we're getting there. And it's all a really nice concept, and I love the idea of it. But truly, when you look at our world right now, how the hell are we getting there anytime soon unless something drastic happens? And we're seeing something drastic happen right now. I'm not saying 5D Earth is going to manifest, okay, this concept of manifestation of pure unity, okay, and us all living in union with one another through respect and honor of the planet and love is not going to happen tomorrow. But I think that we're definitely moving more into that frequency and allowing ourselves to embody it more so that we bring it in faster and faster. So, The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. You guys saw that movie, right? I love that movie. It's like the Dr. Seuss version, which I'm sure they're probably going to even make into a worse movie at some point. But I digress. So finishing off the podcast, I left you guys on a concept, okay? This whole idea of supply and demand. And I think this is very relevant right now. It's actually really interesting how it all came through, because as we're starting to see, the supply and demand chain is actually becoming more and more into the forefront of our awareness through certain chain stores having empty shelves, and the supply chain is actually getting I like to use the word hijacked personally. I think it's being hijacked, but regardless of what it might be, I think it's important to understand that this is a very pivotal point in our reality on how things can shift quantumly. Okay, we're always faced with choices. And depending on when we make those choices, whether we make them in small increments or we decide to go full Monty into it, that can have a very deep effect on how quickly things shift for us, right? As you know, in the last podcast a week ago, we were talking about how, if you had only just listened to Source, God, the voice of God, the voice of Source from your heart, telling you, no, don't go into that relationship. And instead you went into it and you had to learn all these lessons, which isn't a bad thing. It's just your choice. You could have avoided a lot of that and been somewhere else immediately. That is kind of what I'm seeing right now. So I left you all with this example of a 4-year-old, which I told to all of you in Alchemy on Sunday night on our live call. I kind of gave you guys a little bit of a preview, a little insider information, that the only reason that the supply of the matrix is in demand is because we've all been programmed to believe that's what we want. And the demands of the matrix are not the demands, or sorry, the supply of the matrix, I should say, is not what God, Source, the Creator, universe wishes for our hearts to be supplied with. Okay? And I'm not saying that saying the supply chain is bad. It's part of our reality. It's part of our experience. It's valid. But in essence, humanity, for a very, very, very long time, has been guided towards more materialism at the expense of our connections with the people that we care about, and most importantly, our connection with ourselves. And even more importantly, our connection with God, the Creator. And we can see this. We can see how we've been inundated with more and more and more. I need this. I need that. How did we get to a point where our phones almost cost $1,000, and we're so willing to pay for it? Okay, so we are now being faced with some choices. Do we want to continue to demand what the matrix is supplying us? Or do we want to say no to that supply and demand something else? Because we have that power. That power rests solely within us, and we often forget that. We are literally experiencing a macro version of this micro analogy. At the end, I talked about how we have a 4-year-old boy who's acting up, being defiant. And the mom is freaking out. Let's just say the boy is acting up in a public place. And the mom just wants to get her son under control. And so she doesn't know what to do because he's not listening to anything that she's saying. And so she says, if you don't stop this right now, if you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm going to take away your cookies. And the 4-year-old turns around and says, I don't want your cookies. You can eat those cookies. Well, that is where we are finding ourselves right now. Because what happens in that situation, for all you parents out there, all you mothers and you fathers, I know you've been here. Okay, I know I've been there with my niece and my nephew. And we're being forced to come up with a different way on how we understand to shift people into what is like a more 5D experience. So we are literally being told that if you don't do this, we're taking this away from you. And it's up to us to say, okay, take it away. I don't need it. I don't want it. What you have doesn't actually have value in my life anymore. In fact, I'm going to find a way to enjoy the opposite of what you allow me. So for instance, with the airlines, I gave the example of if the airlines were to move in the direction that some airlines across the world have, we're already seeing the resistance of that coming up right now in America. If they were to go that way, playing devil's advocate, you have the choice to not demand that supply anymore and let it suffer the repercussions of only giving you their option and not honoring what it is that you want, because you are the one who determines the demand. A product has no value in a marketplace unless you, the consumer, says so. And that is a truth that we have to remember. And so when we're moving into this 5D earth, okay, this 5D living frequency of, truly embodying authenticity, truly embodying the truth of our souls, not compromising our needs, not compromising our values, living from a place where we can say, I feel good about my choices. I feel like I am in alignment with the codes of who I truly am. This shifts the entire game of the marketplace of the matrix. So, what my guides were driving home is, remember the movie The Grinch Who Stole Christmas? When the Grinch decided, I am going to take away all of their happiness. I am going to make sure that none of them wake up on Christmas morning and have any presents to open up. The Grinch believed that the presents is what made all of the people happy on Christmas Day. And so he was adamant on stealing their joy, which is ultimately what's is happening right now. Literally, if you don't understand it, they're trying to steal our joy so that we live in destitute, in fear, in apathy, in regret, all of those lower frequencies of consciousness. And instead, when he wakes up in the morning to see his great plan unfold and be proud of his, what he's done, he realizes that it didn't work. That everyone woke up that morning and found joy in the people around them. They found a way to be happy with what they already had. They didn't need more. They found joy in what they already had. And this is what this whole experiment is about in many ways. I'm not saying it's the only thing, but I see the bigger picture now. I understand it so intently that if you are doing your healing work, and I say this all the time, if you are doing your healing work, your shadow work, bringing more of yourself into alignment with the codes of who you truly are, who you've always been, and you live from that place where you honor love and you honor union and you honor the connections that you get to have with people that honestly, I believe that the most important thing that we can ever get from this lifetime are the connections that we make in this life. Because you carry those on with you. You carry those on with you. You know when you meet someone that you're like, I feel like I've known you for my entire life. And yeah, we've only just met. That lives on in you. You carry it no matter where you go into your next lifetime and beyond. And so we are here to transcend the supply of the matrix and begin demanding 5D. Demanding the things that actually give value to our lives, not the things that the matrix is telling us give value to our lives. We have given away so much of our personal authority, so much of our own power to convenience and objects, materialistic objects, that really only further disconnect us from ourselves, from our family, from our friends, from our partners, from God. And so we are here to appreciate all of the things that are closer to us. So the ego always wants to look outside of itself for validation. The ego always wants to get things outside of itself to make it feel more than. And truly, our value is already within us. When you start stripping away everything that we accumulate, we then get to see the true value that was always bestowed upon us from our Creator, who we are, what we were born with, which was perfection to begin with. And that's just where we're being reminded to return home to. So we have a choice because, again, I am being reminded to drive home that we are in a process, a transition of moving away from the control structures into surrender structures. And I know that not everyone understands this idea or this concept of surrender because a lot of people, we've been programmed actually to believe that surrender means giving up. Surrender does not mean giving up. Surrender means I give in to the power that is greater than I, that is in control of the divine plan and has the higher perspective than I am able to actually see in this moment, and actually knows better for me than what my mind can conceive of right now. So when we give in, when we surrender to our circumstances, so for instance, if this whole airline thing were to play out and, whatever, you can't fly, and you really don't want to compromise your body autonomy, what if it's because there's something really close to you in your very close local vicinity that you are meant to explore, that land you are meant to connect with? Maybe there's a person you're going to meet when you do. Maybe there's something that you've been overlooking, because we have a tendency to overlook what is so readily available to us. We always want that thing that isn't so readily available to us. But what if we chose to say, you know what? And instead of accumulating more, instead of needing to go further and further away from where I am right now, what if I just said, okay, so maybe right now in this moment in this lifetime, for however long this is going to play out, I'm meant to discover new ways to enjoy my immediate surroundings. Enjoy the people who are immediately around me. What is there to uncover and discover here, right now? This is such a powerful act of surrender This is where our true power lies, because I promise you that these acts are being done, okay, to make us feel like we're under severe restriction, that things are being taken away from us. We are being made to feel like victims. We are being made to feel like we're under attack. But if you shift your perception, and that perception is completely dependent on you, completely dependent on your level of consciousness and where you want to focus your energy, what you want to see, what you choose to see in your reality, then you actually get to experience the opposite of what is trying to be imposed upon you through the guise of restriction. This is an eternal lesson that we all go through in varying forms in our lifetime. But it's collective. It is worldwide right now. It is massive. When we think about tribes, places on earth that don't have very much in the sense of materialism that we have, okay? You often see how happy, some of these people are. And it's very humbling. It's very humbling to us. And I feel like we're given a choice now to choose what is really of value to you. What is it that you want to demand that you be supplied with? Because if you're not seeing something in the supply chain that you want, guess what? That means you've got an opportunity to build it, to create it. God didn't give you that idea or that desire for no reason. So we have to understand that, again, just very much like that parent-child analogy that I gave you, that example. That is the wrong way to try to control your kid, by the way. And I understand when you're under stress and you're exhausted, you go for the low-hanging fruit. I get it. I am not calling anyone a bad parent for doing that. I am just saying that as conscious parents who want to raise conscious children who are making good choices in their lives and they're aligning with what they truly want and they're not compromising themselves, we got to do better. We definitely have to shift things because everything starts on the smaller levels before it starts to shift in the macro. And so we have to start to reevaluate how we're operating and how that's reflected in the macro and saying, oh, well, I don't like what they're doing to me like this way, but I'm actually doing that to this person. I'm actually doing the exact same thing. So does that make me any better than them? So how do I shift that so I can start shifting my reality? And as you guys know, in that podcast, Taya said that depending on where you are in your own level of consciousness and how much healing you've done, whatever is happening around you, you will experience it based on your own karma and what you've gone through. So if you've healed a lot of your stuff, if you've had the courage to dive deep into your shadows and not put off, not avoid the things that have been calling you on a deep level to face, you are likely going to be in a much better position of what you experience. You could have someone like literally next to you having a very different experience than what you are because you've shifted, you've done a lot of the internal work, which means how you view your reality, how you experience things, how you take things in is very, very different. Your whole level of consciousness is actually one of the dependent factors on how you experience what's going on right now. And so if you're experiencing a lot of the toughness, and that's not to say that that you're a bad person. Please don't misinterpret that at all. We all go through our journeys at different times. But that should be a wake-up call for you, like, okay, I've got to start facing the things I've been avoiding. I've got to be ready to dive in a little deeper. And why have I been putting this off? Why have I been compromising the needs of my soul for the comforts of what I always known? Because the comforts is where the problems have always lied. Okay? That's why we're having all this Saturn energy coming in right now. Like the Saturn energy is so prevalent. It's just like there to make us not comfortable anymore. It's like enough with the comfort. You've been comfortable for too long. Change is needed. You need to learn the lessons. And the sooner you learn the lessons, the less uncomfortable you'll be. So I was really made aware of this from my guides yesterday, all day, and last night. You know, why are we still choosing to allow this matrix supply to be what we're going to keep paying for or demanding, or let it be used over our heads as like a control bait? Just say no. Just say no. I don't want it anymore. It doesn't have the value that it used to have. And it's like, if you want to shift the marketplace, okay, of this world, then start putting your money, your resources, and your time into the things that actually are in alignment with you not compromising who you are, your own integrity, your own sovereignty, your own freedom. This is huge. This is big because it's so hard. It's so hard to really see the bigger picture, as I said in the very beginning. You're like, why is this all happening? And we all go into this like, oh, why is this happening to me? Like, what did I do in a past life to deserve this? Like we all have this thought in our mind, like, oh, what did I do like last year that brought this upon me? Or like, should I have not made that choice? And it's not about that. It's not about that. Transcend that. Again, that's low-hanging fruit. This is about being in the power seat. Remember, I said there are a lot of power players who are rising up right now, who are hidden on purpose to be in this moment, to be a strength in this moment right now. Because a lot of the power players that have already been there are losing some steam potentially. They need a rest. They've been at this battle for a long time. So a lot of us are coming in here now, like we're ready to suit up. We're ready to be put in. And don't be afraid of your own power. Don't be afraid of what you've got to offer this world. Don't be afraid of your power of saying no if you don't like it. Because this is how we got here. We stopped saying no when we should have been. We said, oh, okay, it's not that bad. I'll just allow this to slide. Oh, okay, maybe, okay, next time for sure. I'm not going to let that go. We just kept allowing it to slide, allow it to slide, till finally we get to our breaking point. And now what do we have to do? We have to work extra hard just to push back where we were originally. We could have been not so far along, like where we are today. So we can't let things slide anymore. We have to hold integrity to what's right for us. And again, that's going to be different for everyone. Whatever is right for you, just stay in alignment with that. No judgment. Whether it's different for the person beside you, that is not for anyone to debate. You are your own individual, and we should be empowering individual sovereignty, individual right to choose. Okay, that is what this is all about. So, what if, when we think about this idea of Christ consciousness and the 1221 portal and that Saturn-Jupiter conjunction and the Christ energy and this idea of like the Grinch trying to steal Christmas, it's literally like the biggest power grab of humanity in known time, in modern history, of trying to steal the Christ consciousness within us. Trying to steal that 5D Earth concept out of us so that it doesn't actually manifest into the timeline. And we just have to say, no, sorry, that's not why we came here. We didn't come here to allow you to take that power grab. No, that's not happening. Not on my watch. And I think that for many of us, we have some very important choices to make. at this time. We have some very important choices to make. And I think it's important to also understand the gravity behind each and every one of your choices. Every time you choose, you are crystallizing the energy of that choice into your reality. Remember that. Every choice you make. And so it's important, even just going back to last week's podcast with Katie, she's saying like, everything matters. Every little thing that you say yes or no to matters. Everything does. Be in alignment with as much as you can. And for that which you aren't, find a way to get in alignment with it. And ask yourself, why? Why am I not choosing to be in alignment with it there, but I'm choosing to be in alignment with it over here? What is it in me that doesn't feel like so readily able to align with that? Why am I not ready to give that up? Why am I not ready to say no to the thing that inside of me on a deep level, when I connect to source, is telling me no? But I'm like, oh, no, but I still want it. I still want it. It's the programming. It's the programming of the matrix telling us you want it. You need it. You're dependent on it. Without it, you don't get this, this, and that. So there's a lot here that's happening. And I believe that if many of us understand this concept and we start implementing it into our lives, implementing it into every decision, every choice that we're making, the power of saying no, which is ultimately saying yes to you, yes to 5D, okay? Yes to your freedoms. Through the power of saying no, the entire structure of control begins to crumble. And we get to move into the divine flow of what was intended for us always. There is a manipulation of the divine flow structures right now. And that's why it's so important for us to be able to be in the flow, to be open to all possibilities, not trying to manipulate our reality and try to control everything so we think this is where we're supposed to go or we think we're supposed to do that. Like, you can see how the control structures are implemented in us in so many different ways. We have to let that go and just be really tuned into the heart and let the heart be our GPS. Let the heart guide us. So it's important because we're getting to a point in reality here, a point in life, a point in history where the power is shifting back to the individual, back to the sovereign individual, and away from the very few. But that is going to depend on each and every one of us and how we start to tune into the things that actually matter to us. The connections, the friendships, the family relationships, the partnerships, the lover. Are you doing what you actually love? Or are you just working because you're good at something and it pays well and it's comfortable? Why are you, start questioning everything about your existence. And is it in alignment with your true soul codes? Or is it just in alignment with what's comfortable, what's easy? And start making bigger decisions that are a little bit tougher, that are in alignment with the 5D frequencies. Freedom is a 5D frequency. And you are free to choose whatever you want. And you are free to choose how you're going to experience anything outside of you. You have that power. And so, if something's happening to you that you don't like, find a way to enjoy it. Because your joy is a frequency that grates. It grates on the power structure of control. They don't like that. They don't want you happy. They don't want you loving life. They don't want you feeling free. They don't want you feeling connected. They don't want you feeling like you're not alone. So find those connections that really help you bond with the deeper parts of you, that allow you to enjoy life as it is. Again, we're being guided to go back to the simpler things. It's a tried and true spiritual lesson that we've all gone through many lifetimes in the ancient texts, to always go back to the simple things. When we complicate things and we add more and more, it just doesn't work for us. It doesn't work for us. So every little thing in your life, just start asking yourself, am I really liking this? Am I really loving this? Is this a yes for me? Is this 100% yes for me? And if it isn't 100% yes for you, say, why am I doing it then? Why am I doing it? Because we're not about to allow this shift in consciousness that is leading us to 5D Earth to be hijacked. We're not about to allow that to happen. And the only way to control that is by your own experience, by you alone in your reality. Not anyone else outside of you, just you. Just focus on you. That's full autonomy. You take responsibility for yourself and only yourself. And I promise you, we will see massive shifts across the planet. This is what the whole experiment has been about in many ways, is to show us that all of the things that we thought we wanted are not what we wanted. They've only been programmed into us to believe that we wanted them. And by taking away the supply, they think it's going to increase our demand. And we're going to give in to certain things. But what if we don't give in? What if we say, I don't want your supply anymore? This is where the power lies. This is where the shift can happen. We're at that tipping point. I talked about that in the alchemy class on Sunday night. We are at a tipping point. Things can really start to change in our favor. And when I say in our favor, I mean the favor of the future of humanity for the next 7 generations. Okay? So that our children and our children's children can live in a world that is void of rabid control. Okay? So I'm going to leave it there because 37 minutes. My goodness. Do you guys have any questions? Let me just look back through here. Do you guys get it? Do you guys understand what I'm talking about? I'm pretty sure you guys do. Do you understand the power of what I'm discussing right now? It's so simple. And that's how you almost know. When things are that simple, that's how you know their truth. That's how you know it's the right path. When things get complicated, okay, and they get convoluted, that's when you're no, that's not the right thing. It's too much work. It should be easy in a sense of at least the concept of it. Okay? Empath rising, on point, sister. Enough is enough with this rampant tyranny. Yeah, the only reason they have the control is because we've allowed it for so long. Greg Herrera, this is the best message ever. Thanks, Greg. Let me see here. What if we don't know what we should do? Okay. This is interesting because I actually visited this whole issue while I was writing part of my book earlier this afternoon, because I used to not know what as 2014, and I was doing stuff that I knew I was good at, and it wasn't bad. I was working as a massage therapist, I was doing energy work, I was doing yoga, I was helping people with their health. I wasn't doing I was doing what I thought was valid work, but I wasn't in love with it. I wasn't in love with it. And I remember asking myself, what is it? Do I really love it? And so when I thought about it, when I would reflect on it, my mind would say, well, I'm good at this and I'm good at that. But then I would tune into my heart. And I was like, I really ask my heart, what am I here to do? What are my gifts? And I get a very different answer. You know, when I tuned into and I journaled this is how I know, because it's in my journal from 2014. And through meditation, I was asking my heart, and it said, I thought my ego was like, oh, you're going to build a center. You're going to build this wellness center. You're going to bring in a lot of people. You're going to help them with this. You're going to help them with that. You're really good at this. You're smart. Da, 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 da. You know this about the body. You know that about the body. But when I tuned into my heart, it was very simple. One of my gifts was leadership and inspiration. And as soon as it came through, I started crying. It just, my whole body had a somatic response to that when I asked my heart. And I knew that was where I'd always wanted to go. Even when I was 25, I knew that I always wanted to be a leader of some sort through inspiration. But I didn't understand exactly how. But I was like, you know what, that feels right for me. And I just moved into it and allowed it to unfold. And it didn't come through immediately. But surely and slowly, bit by bit, things started to reveal itself to me because I moved in the direction of my heart. So really tune into your heart. That heart connection is so important. If you need to, go back and listen to episode 216 again with Katie and really grasp that concept. Okay? Go fall into your heart. Allow your heartbeat. Okay, I just dropped a comment in the live chat in the podcast tonight. Listen to the beat of your own heart, tune into it, and get in rhythm, get in sync with the sound and the flow of your own heart. And then just drop all energy into it and say, show me where I'm supposed to go. What is it that you want me to know that I'm not seeing yet? What is it that I love to do? What am I missing? What am I not seeing? And if you can sit there without expectation of an answer, without expectation that the answer is going to come in an instant, but say, you know what, I'm going to sit here for however long you decide to sit there. And if I don't get it again, I'm going to come back tomorrow. I'm going to sit here again and I'm going to listen. And I'm going to listen until I get the answer. That is commitment. That is commitment to your path. That starts to tell you that you are worth it, that your heart is worth it, and that whatever your gifts are is worth it for you to finally know so that you can follow that path. And again, remember that many times your path is going to encompass a lot of things that, bring you joy. It's not just one thing. We're multidimensional beings. Allow for your path to be multidimensional. Geert, honestly, I don't get it. Isn't this just the old become a hermit and go live in a cave message? No, it's not. It's not. You are not meant to go live in a cave. That is not why we're here. That's not why we're living in modern times. It is meant to find joy in the simplicity again. We get so driven away from the simple connections, the things that bring us joy. Laughing with friends. Laughing until your side aches. Not because you're, on some amazing beach resort or you're in some fantastic country and you're eating the culture's food and, you're doing all these, interesting things. It doesn't matter where you are. That simplicity of finding joy where you're just sitting with an old friend or just someone and you're just laughing and tears and your side aches and it's finding beauty in the simple things that we've forgotten and allowed to become put on the back burner of what truly brings us joy, and finding a way to surrender to our circumstances in a way that allows us to appreciate what is around us. Find beauty in anything that you can. It is unfolding your own power of being able to perceive beauty and perfection in anything. I hope that makes sense, Garrett. I am not saying go back and like live in a cave, but just remember what's important. We get driven away from so much through this idea of all these like things that we think we want, when really they're just programmed things. And it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. Like, there's got to come a point where you stand in your own convictions in whatever way that you possibly can, where you can say no for change. And saying no is very uncomfortable. You know, when you think about just being in a relationship that you know you're not supposed to be in any longer, okay, but it's comfortable, you know the person, they know you, you know, like, it's not that there aren't good times, but the relationship expired like a long time ago. And the only reason you're still there is because you know it. It's comfortable. It's familiar. And there is a part of it that represents all the things that you think you want. But at the end of the day, you're just not happy. You're just not happy. Every time you say yes to it, a little part of you is shrinking up even more, shriveling up even more, because you know it's not in alignment with who you are today. And saying no is very difficult because it means you have to give up this thing that has been so comfortable to you for so long. That's why it's so hard to get out of relationships. So hard to move on. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We have to like break up with the comfort of what we thought were good for us, but ultimately it's cost us a lot. And now we're seeing what it has cost us. So, dare to be you. I can't tell you how much I needed to hear this. I'm glad. Alicia 1, I get it, but it's a new way of thinking we have to get used to. I think most of us don't really know what we want. Yeah, and the reason why we don't know what we want is because we haven't truly built the connection with our own selves. We're so disconnected with who we truly are that we don't even know what it is that we want. So use this time to truly connect with who you are. Use it as an opportunity, like it's a gold mine right now. Like, okay, what do I really want? Okay, well, I don't want that and I don't want that. Like, you can start eliminating certain things. But you're right. It is a new way of thinking we have to get used to. And it's just a mind shift, right? It's reprogramming the mind to fire in new and different ways, creating new paths. It's just like with anything in life, in anything that we're trying to repattern ourselves so that we're not acting from a place of wounding. We're not acting out from a place of like, abandonment, say, you know, and that firing path will always fire because, you know, it gets activated through certain experiences where we have to say, no, that's not what's happening right now. And we start shifting how we internally are feeling. We shift that internal environment so that we start firing nerves in a different way. Okay, guys, it's getting late. I love you all. Have a wonderful evening. I'm going to be back here tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern for All Signs. I'm going to be doing all your readings for the last half of October. And so I'm looking forward to being with you guys all then. Guys, have a wonderful night. Allow this message to really sink in so that you understand. Because from what I understood from my guides, is that the sooner that we grasp this concept and are actually able to actualize it into our life and start living from that, things can shift very rapidly, much more rapidly than we perhaps believe. Okay? Love you.